Hey everybody, how's it going? This week's lesson is about photography. So this first part is about how to get great lighting when you're photographing your artwork or a piece of paper. Okay, so here's my two daughters. This is Kira and Margot, and they worked on this sign that they made for their school, the Newtown Knights. Now, once they're finished making it, let's say they wanted to send a photograph of it over email or Seesaw or Google Classroom. How do you get a good photograph of this work? So Margot, stand up with the sign and go stand in front of that window over there. Now you might think, oh look, there's a nice view out the window. Let's stand over here and get a picture. But if you look at Margot right now, she is pretty dark because there's light coming from behind her. And I can't see the artwork that well. It's getting kind of dark. So instead of standing in front of a window with the light behind you, have the light in front of you. So now, Margot, if you can come stand over here in front of the chalkboards. So just that little shift, now you can see her much better and you can see the sign much better. And now stand by the water cooler over there. Now over here, you can see her again. Look at the light hitting her now. You can really see the artwork much better than you could when it was over by the window. So if you want to send just a picture of the artwork and not you holding it, another great idea is you want to have your work really well lit. So here's those same windows over here, and the windows are casting light onto this table. So for me to get a good photograph of this, I'm using my phone to do this right now, or a handheld device. Now, look at the image. I have it on a table. There's nothing around it. There's light coming from the windows and hitting it and lighting it up really, really well. Even though it's a cloudy day, there's plenty of light on here. So I can hold this still now and get a good photograph of this. Okay, so here's my daughter Margot. She's at her desk working. So she has this artwork. Can you hold that artwork up, Margot? And she wants to get a good picture of this. See how nice it looks right now? It's really well lit. That's because over here, there's a window casting light onto her work. But if she takes the work and she turns it and faces it towards her laptop, now all of a sudden the picture is really dark, because the problem she has right now is right behind her, there's a lamp, and the lamp is shooting light this way behind her, and it's not hitting the artwork. Also, the light from the window is coming over here, and it's not really hitting that directly. So if she goes to take a photograph, hold it up to your screen. If she takes a photograph of this, it's not really well lit. Look at her face on the screen is in the shadows, and the artwork's not really well lit. So there's an easy way to solve this problem. So one thing you could do is, if you have a lamp in front of your work. So Margot, can you turn that lamp on over there? So this light's adjustable. We can take this and turn it this way.
Or like put it down here.
And then now hold your work up to the laptop. And then bend it a little bit, face it towards the light. So now here she is, the light is shining right onto the artwork. You can see it pretty well on her computer screen. What would also help is if you went and took this lamp over here and actually just turned it off, so there's no light coming from behind her. So show that again on the screen. Margot, hold up your work to the screen. Tilt it a little bit towards the light. There we go, see it lighten up really well. The other thing she could do is you could take your laptop and just turn it like this. Margot, turn your whole body around. So now her artwork is facing the light on her desk and the light from the window. So she has two light sources coming in right onto her artwork. So on her computer screen, it looks really brightly lit. So basically the whole point of this, to get a good photograph of your artwork, make sure there's light hitting it, whether it's from a light hitting it from the front or light from a window. They both work really, really well as great light sources. Another thing you could do, if it's a nice day, you can actually take your work outside. There's always good lighting outside. Just make sure the sunlight is hitting your artwork or your face so we can see the image. So remember, when you're taking photographs, just make sure you always have light hitting what you're trying to take a picture of. Right now, as you're watching this film right here, I have a light source over here and a light source over here, and they're both coming and they're hitting this piece of paper in my face. That's why you can see us so well. So once you get good lighting for a photograph and you can control the lighting, the next thing I was going to talk about is composition. And it's how you kind of set up a picture, whether you're taking a photograph of your work or if you're photographing, well, anything else. So that's going to be the challenge this week, is using this other trick. It's called the rule of thirds. It's a really, really old trick. It goes back to the Renaissance about 500 years ago. And people still use it today in photography and painting and movies. So right now, as you're watching this, I'm kind of centered right in the middle of the picture. It looks okay. That's what I think most people try to do when they take a photograph of a person, is you try to get them right in the middle of the picture. Or if you're taking a picture of a seashell or a tree, you're trying to get that object right in the center. What the rule of thirds basically says is, don't put it right in the center. Try something a little bit different to kind of shake it up, and you're going to take the subject matter, like me, and you're going to move it to this part of the photograph, about a third of the way over. So right now there's this grid over top of me, and I'm on the side of the picture with a little bit of empty space over here. What it's supposed to do is kind of make the picture a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dynamic, and there's lots of ways to do it. So these next photographs I'm going to show you, they all have an example of how the rule of thirds is being used. Here's a photograph of a young girl on the beach. Notice how the vertical line on the left-hand side goes right through her body. And if you look at the horizontal line on the top, it's right on the horizon line where the sky meets the ocean. So here in this example, this photograph of a young girl, there is a vertical line on the left-hand side, and the horizontal upper line are intersecting right on her head. So her head's about a third of the way over, a third of the way down, and it's almost as if she's going to gaze into that right-hand side of the picture where there's nothing. If you look near her feet too, her feet and that little rock that she's sitting on, they're kind of on that horizontal line on the bottom of the picture. This one here of this bird, you can see the vertical and horizontal line intersect right on the bird's eye, and then the vertical line on the left-hand side goes right through the bird's body onto the feet and then onto that stick. And again, look how the right-hand side of the picture, the bird is kind of gazing into the right-hand side of the picture. In this photograph, you'll notice how there's a horizontal line going just over the mountaintops and just under the sky. And then the pile of rocks on the right-hand side, there's a vertical line going directly through it. You can see it in movies and films all the time too. So here's a still shot from the movie Ratatouille, and it shows the character on the right-hand side. Look at his eye, and the intersection of the vertical and horizontal line are right under his eye. There's also one by his neck, and on the left-hand side there's one intersection point right on the rat. Here's another one from the movie Incredibles. You'll see the character on the left-hand side. There's a vertical line running through her face, neck, and body. Even the door on the right-hand side appears to be lined up perfectly with the vertical line on the right-hand side, as well as the little boy Flash hits that line on the bottom right-hand side. And in this shot from the movie Frozen, Olaf appears to be all the way on the right-hand side on the right vertical line. This is a painting by Claude Monet. It's over 100 years old, this painting, but you can see the skyline, the horizon where the ocean meets the sky is just underneath of that third line, as well as this rock to the left-hand side lines up with a vertical line, and the edge of this cliff sort of lines up with the right-hand side vertical.
So there's lots of ways to use the rule of thirds. It's just supposed to make your picture a little bit more interesting and a little bit more dynamic and kind of grab the viewer's attention. So these next photographs are ones that I just took around my house. You can probably do the same thing too in your house. Look around for objects or people or pets that you can take photographs of and try to apply the rule of thirds.
The rule of thirds is so popular, there's actually a way to get it on your camera when you're using it. If you're using an iPhone, the first thing you would do is go to Settings. Scroll down in Settings to find Camera. In Camera, there's an option for Grid. See here, it is turned off. Simply click it on and you're ready to use the rule of thirds on an iPhone or an iPad. If you're not using an iPhone and you're using some other digital camera, there's probably a way to get grid lines while you're using your camera. You may just have to Google it and look up how to do it. If you can't get grid lines to appear on your camera, that's okay. You can kind of just imagine a tic-tac-toe board on top of your screen. And if you're not using a camera, that's okay too. You can make a drawing for this assignment and draw your objects using the rule of thirds. So here's one idea I did in my own home. I went around and collected some objects, some plants, some knickknacks, a candle, a seashell, and placed them on this table. I took a photograph of it. Everything's in the middle, but it's not the most appealing photograph to me. There's a lot of the tables showing. There's that plant in the background. There's a chair in the background. I could do a couple of things to clean this up and use the rule of thirds. So here's all the same objects. I just photographed them a little bit differently using the rule of thirds. I got in a little bit closer with my camera and I lined up the left-hand vertical line going right through the center of that plant. I also put the top of the table on the horizontal line on the bottom. I also removed any objects from the background. Here's a photograph of my oldest daughter, Kira, and I'm not really using the rule of thirds here. She's kind of just right in the middle of the photograph. For this picture, I made some slight adjustments and used the rule of thirds. Now see how the vertical line on the left-hand side runs right through the middle of her body. Also, the horizontal line, the upper horizontal line, runs right through her head as well. Here's another picture of her using the rule of thirds. Notice how the horizontal upper line and the left vertical line intersect right on top of her eye. Here's one I took of my daughter Margot without using the grid. I kind of just estimated where the vertical and horizontal lines would be. Her eyes are right around that horizontal line, the upper one, and the left-hand vertical line is going right through the middle of her face. Here I put the grid on top of it afterward, and I was pretty close.
So that's a little bit about the rule of thirds. Try to use it this week when you're at home. You could do a number of different things. You could try to use a camera, whether it's on your laptop or a cell phone or a handheld camera. Sometimes you can get that grid to pop up when you're using it. You can just imagine it there. You can make a drawing of something that you're interested in and use the rule of thirds. You can also do this. You can look for it when you watch a television show or a movie. I bet you're going to find a couple of scenes that use the rule of thirds. You can point it out to your family, what this video talked about, and I bet you they can help find it too. So any one of those is fine. Just look for the rule of thirds, use the rule of thirds. A lot of artists and photographers use it to this day. So that's it. Have a great week. If you want to send me any of your work, you can certainly do that. And I'll see you next time. Also, don't forget, this Wednesday at 1 o'clock is my art class live Zoom. So look for that link in the emails from school this week. Bye.